There's a point where people start to realize they're not lacking opportunity. They're not lacking information. They're not even lacking effort. And yet something still feels off. It's like they're doing everything they're supposed to do, but the results just aren't compounding the way that they should. I'm Justin Kaiser, CEO of Empire Franchising, and I've spent the last 25 years building, scaling, and investing in businesses, including taking my own franchise brand from 0 to over 100 franchise territories before an acquisition at the end of 2024. Now, what I've come to understand is that most people are trying to change their results without ever changing the pattern that produces them. Because results don't just come from action, they come from repeated patterns of thought, expectation, and behavior working together. And if those patterns stay the same, outcomes tend to repeat, even if the effort increases. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And most people hear that as motivation, but it's actually a description of how results are formed. Because the word believe defines what you act on consistently, what you commit to, what you follow through on when things get uncertain, and what you quietly abandon when the resistance shows up. Those small decisions repeated over time are what shapes outcomes. Neville Goddard said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." And again, that gets interpreted as visualization or imagination. But what he's really describing is identity alignment. It's the ability to operate as if the outcome is already part of your reality, not in a performative way, but in a way that changes how you think, how you decide, and how you act. Because when something feels real to you, your behavior adjusts. You don't hesitate the same way. You don't question every step. You don't need external validation to move. And that shift alone changes the speed and consistency of your actions. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They try to think differently, but they don't act differently. Or they act differently at once, twice, but not long enough to change the pattern. And without repetition, nothing sticks because your mind doesn't update based on intention. It updates based on evidence. What you repeatedly do becomes what you believe is normal. And what you feel is normal becomes what you create over and over again. Now, think about how this shows up in business, how you evaluate opportunities, how long you wait before making decisions, how you respond when something doesn't go as planned. All of that is shaped by your internal baseline, not your external knowledge. Two people can have the same information and take completely different actions because they're operating from different expectations. One expects things to work. The other expects resistance. Now, those expectations influence behavior in ways that aren't always obvious. One moves quickly, the other hesitates. One adjusts and continues, the other pulls back. And over time, those small differences compound into completely different outcomes. Now, layer in something even more important, awareness, because you can't change a pattern you don't see. And most patterns are automatic. They've been reinforced over time through repetition, through past experiences, through small decisions that felt insignificant in the moment, but added up over time. And once something becomes automatic, it feels like reality, not a pattern. But this can be changed, and it changes the same way it was built, through repetition, through small, consistent actions that align with a different outcome. Not once, not when it feels right, but consistently until it becomes familiar, until it becomes expected. Now, once that shift happens, results start to follow, not because something externally suddenly changed, but because your internal filter changed. James Allen said, "All that you accomplish and all that you fail to accomplish is a direct result of your own thoughts." What he's really pointing to is the chain reaction between thought, action, and result. Thoughts influence behavior. Behavior creates outcomes, and outcomes reinforce thoughts. And that loop continues until something interrupts it. When that interruption comes from action, from doing something different, consistently enough to create a new pattern, and once that new pattern is established, it starts to feel natural. Decisions become easier. Execution becomes cleaner. And what used to feel uncertain starts to feel expected. Now, this isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's about aligning what you think, what you expect, and what you do. Because when those three things are aligned, resistance decreases, momentum increases, and results start to compound. Not because you're forcing them, but because you're no longer working against yourself. So if you're looking at your current results and you're not where you want them to be, don't just look at strategy. Don't just look at effort. Look at the pattern. Look at what you're repeating. Look at what feels normal, because that's what's driving the outcome. Once you see that clearly, you can start to change it one action at a time, one decision at a time, one repeated pattern at a time. As that compounds, so does everything else, because your external world will always follow your internal world, not the other way around. Once that clicks, manifestation stops being an idea and starts being something you can experience consistently in real time.